Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a very fun little experimental kind of toy box experience called Les Migeons. And my apologies if that is not the best pronunciation you've ever heard. My French is not amazing, but hopefully that's okay. Because what we're going to be doing today is hanging around with these little dudes, which I'm going to call our minions, I suppose. Each one of which has its own designated color and unique AI. And as you can see, they've all taken to starting to spawn blocks into the world at various rates and frequencies, all of which seem to have a corresponding tone. Now, the cool thing about this is every time you start this up, you're going to get a little bit of a different permutation of the colors and AIs, and you may end up with some that are very much more vertically oriented, or like this particular seed happens to be, we've got kind of a beautiful rainbow transition actually happening in a much more horizontal pattern. Now, the other cool thing about this is you're probably thinking, hey, is this all this is? You just watch these dudes build stuff for a while and then eventually turn it off? Well, there's a little bit more to it, and I think that this experience has a lot of potential for being something much bigger and even more interesting than it even is right now, and I actually do find it rather interesting even right now. Ooh, let's climb up this staircase and look down on the world, see if the rainbow translates as well. This is probably one of the best gradients I've ever gotten, actually, so far, and a very fitting and interesting way to start things out. So, the other things that you can do here when you're done with watching them build for a while and you don't just want to keep restarting, is you can actually pick up our minions, move them around, and even breed them together to kind of create hybrid AIs with, I suppose, the hope of maybe building extra big towers or, you know, whatever structures you think make sense to you. So that's what we've got so far. It looks like most of them have finished building. They're all going to kind of sputter out and then start asking for help or, you know, asking for commands. I'm going to pick up this little guy here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the droid logo character. Hopefully not too close to it. So we're going to bring it over and place it next to another one of these. And if they like each other, they might actually breed and create another minion, which can then have the attributes, I suppose, of the two together. Or the other one will just use the first one as a stepping block and climb up higher to try and build more structures. I don't know. Whatever they're into is fine with me, I suppose. Let's just place... Oh, where did you go? Fell back down. Their heads are a little bit difficult to distinguish from just the regular blocks if you're not looking especially carefully. Let's put you with you, maybe, and see if another one spawns. No? Alright, doesn't look like that's happening. But I'm sure I'll find a good combination eventually. So what I was thinking as far as potential for this one and why I found this to be so interesting is not only am I totally for just seeing what kind of strange abstract structures that these guys can create, I'd also kind of be interested in what if we could use this sort of in a way of like a 3D Lemmings game, because these have some similar attributes to that, and what if we had to solve puzzles by breeding these together to create AI that would allow us to reach certain areas in a kind of an open world game environment. So maybe there's different villages where each of these types of creatures all sort of spawn together and have the same patterns, and you can observe from the way that they build their architecture what kind of patterns that they tend to have. Then you want to try and find these guys and move them over to be with ones that would create structures that would be beneficial to you to try and climb parts of the landscape to maybe reach new areas or find keys, open doors, you know, what have you, whatever the game designer feels to be an interesting thing. And I guess I'm sort of imagining, what if this could all take place in just sort of like a big open area? And I guess I'm obviously thinking of Minecraft in this case because, well, what else would I think of when I think of big open world experience with squares and cubes everywhere? This is kind of how things go. So for the sake of interest here, why don't I actually just restart us and see if we can get maybe some more vertically oriented friends. And it's very interesting to see this unfold, actually. So let's get a good far away distance to things and let stuff just sort of build up for a second and see what kind of things we've got. I see two repeat ones here. I see we've got a ruby color that's off in the distance. Seems like they're both building at the same exact frequency with the same pattern. So I guess maybe the color does designate AI most of the time, although it looks like we might have... Is this a slightly different red, or is this the same red? I can't really tell. It looks the same to me. But this character over here seems to have a different idea about what to do. Seems to be like rotate right, fall or jump, place a block, turn right, place and jump, and then it just kind of falls in that pattern, which is why you're getting structures that are oriented like that. I kind of do wish that some of these AIs were maybe a little bit more generally focused on creating larger structures, because it would be really interesting to see how these start to intertwine together. And I guess maybe one of the most interesting things I could do at this point is to grab a whole bunch of these. Oh, look, this is the same pattern as the red one was over there. But let's just grab all of these and put them all right next to each other and see if maybe they'll create some kind of strange new structure. Oh, we've bred the two to create this kind of mustard yellow one here. So I'm going to go harvest as many of these guys as we can and move them all together and see if we can maybe create a superstructure of some kind, or at least some kind of tangled, knotted mess of all kinds of blocks. I'm also imagining, what if there were hazards in this game world too, like if we had to cross a lake of acid or something, and the only way we could do it is with the help of a certain type of these, and, well, I guess you've kind of got the idea. This is going to end up becoming sort of an adventure game in my mind, and I just think the potential here is so great. I guess we could also just try and breed so many of these creatures that eventually, like, every kind of AI has to be possible, and we'll just start to create vertically oriented structures just by virtue of having so many things being created in close proximity to each other. Well, I guess some of them are going to run away, even by accident. So let's grab you, put you over here. I believe you can also kind of disrupt them if you happen to jump into the way of them. I've noticed that I've actually knocked them off, like, tall structures before, which can be a little silly. Have you fallen? Yes, you have. Let's grab you. They seem to get done building eventually and just kind of fall of their own volition, which I kind of wish they didn't do, because I want to see how tall we can go in this. I think we may have accidentally just bred another pair there. Do we have... Yep, we got one over here, this dusty colored one. Oh, we've got two, actually. There's a drab colored one here as well, and another orange over on the side. So we're getting the whole community together, and they're going to build some kind of structure for them to all live in, I suppose. Imagine the NPC interactions in a world like this could be very strange. Or imagine if you just left this to go for like a year and they never stopped building. What would we have? We would just have this sprawling landscape of multicolored blocks in every direction that makes almost no sense. This is kind of my duty to corral them all together and make them try to build at least one unified structure. Also, imagine if you could create certain blocks of a certain type and then, like, set that block to be what this one particular AI generates, and then sort of use that to your own benefit. So if you're trying to create, like, a block to solve a puzzle, maybe you need to create a hybrid of two of these AIs to then create that block, and then you could take that block and, like, reprogram it into another thing. I don't know. It's getting a little bit far-fetched, I know, but I just find the potential for these sort of modular AIs with a visual, like, learning user interface to be really interesting, and the potential seems so huge, especially when you got pretty lights and things like this. I mean, that's actually a very colorful and interesting looking structure now. We got like a double helix pattern going on. They're building the early structures of DNA. It looks like DNA is leaping out of the ground to create something much more useful and fanciful than that. And they just keep getting stuck and then asking what to do now. You go to town, guys. You just have the most fun you need to have for whatever you need to do, and just breed to your heart's content. Whatever you want to do, you just have fun. I'm gonna get you all together, and then we'll climb up into the clouds, and we'll find a magical staircase that takes us to another world. Well, I think that's about all there really is to say on this one. I think there's a lot I could speculate on, a lot of other various options that I think would be interesting to take into account for, but I think right now, even as it is, it's kind of a fun little experiment, and I'd be curious to know if you guys have similar sentiments on what you think about this. I'm imagining, like, building an urban landscape now out of all of these weird blocks. Like, if one of these was programmed to build, you know, the foundations of buildings, another one's programmed to build, you know, a first floor, and then so on and so forth. You have them all work together in tandem, and then you could just build an entire city like that, or watch cities build in front of you, and then speed up the timer, and then just watch the whole landscape just go nuts. I assume, too, with having no textures on anything and just these dynamic lighting effects, you could probably get quite a bit done, too, without super killing the poly count and, you know, causing frame rate stuttering and such. But I also have a pretty decent setup anyway for my computer, and this is Unity, too, which is generally, seemed to be mostly well optimized for the majority of the times that I've played games on it. Although I know that was like a remarkably ungranular way to describe something about a game engine, but hopefully you get what I'm talking about. Can I not fit here? I guess that's going to be a bit of a problem if I can't fit through one block coordinings, if that's a word, or one block designations of space. Oh, can I get over here? It's so colorful. Oh, look at the pretty light rays shining through the blocks. That's very lovely. Anyway, that's going to be it for Les Migeons. Thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you leave a like on it. I will be back again tomorrow for another one. And, of course, if you'd like to go download and try this yourself, there's a Windows, an OS X, and a Linux build all of which are available in the description of this video. Make sure you leave a comment, let me know what you think about these possibilities or what you might do differently if you were creating something like this, and I'd be curious to have a discussion with you guys for later. So thank you again for watching. I hope you'll come back again tomorrow for another episode, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to y'all later.